We're okay. Okay, thank you. Public comment. Is there anybody that has a comment to make on any issue that is not on the agenda but related to the Board of Health activities? All right, seeing none or hearing none, we will move on to the agenda item, the Summer House appeal. We'll now proceed with the public hearing in the appeal of the health officer's June 27th, 2023 decision not to renew the food establishment permits of Summer House located at 1 Magnolia Avenue and the Summer House Pool Bistro located at 16 Ocean Avenue. Do I have a motion to open the hearing?
Motion to open the hearing.
Do I hear a second? All in favor to open the hearing?
Aye.
Aye. The hearing is now open. I would like to now turn the matter over to our town council, Greg Corbo, to lead us through the hearing process.
Thank you. Good afternoon through you, Mr. Chair. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Just by way of introduction, my name is Greg Corbo, town council for the town of Nantucket, and I'm here to assist the board with this proceeding today. Before we get started with respect to the hearing itself, it is my understanding that the applicant, through their attorney, wishes to be heard with respect to a request for continuance. Is the applicant's attorney here?
Yes, Attorney Corbo. Attorney Mary Ellen Manning is here. May I speak?
Yes, please.
Thank you, through the chair. Hi, Greg. It's Mary Ellen Manning. I'm here for Danielle De Benedictis and the various corporations involved with the Summer House properties that is subject of this application and hearing.
Go ahead.
May I proceed, Greg? Yes?
Yes, go ahead.
Through the chair?
Please go ahead.
Yes, so we had a conversation with attorney Brian Riley prior to today regarding continuing this hearing. Under the rules, we have an option to ask for a continuance. We would like to do so, and I believe your next scheduled meeting is the 20th of this month.
It's the third Thursday, whatever date that is.
Yes, the 20th.
I believe that's correct. So if it pleases the board, we would like to be able to continue this to the 20th. And in support of that, would like to say that the various departments that are predicates to the Board of Health inspecting these properties are in the middle of inspecting the fire department, plumbing department, building department for the violation that had to do with the plumbing on the site that led to the non-renewal status that we're in right now. So since those are proceeding right now, we thought it best to attempt to complete that, and perhaps we would be able to avoid the posture that we're in and that the town is in right now, and proceed in a way that would be beneficial to both the businesses, the town, the employees. Many of them are here today who are displaced and now out of work. And we think that would be the best course for all. If the board would look upon it favorably, we would appreciate that.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the public on this request? Please.
Sure.
Just please step up to the microphone.
And introduce yourself.
Just introduce yourself and
Hi, I'm Tom Laughlin. I'm a neighbor of the Summer House, and my property abuts their property. And I don't know much about the continuance process, but it strikes me that they're asking for a continuance while they are seeking to get approvals on inspections that they've already failed, for which they're being told their permits are being non-renewed. So it strikes me as an effort to renew permits under a normal inspection process that's already failed. So that's troublesome to me.
thank you. Any other public comments?
Mr. Chair, through you.
Yes.
Thank you. So, obviously it's within the board's discretion to, grant or not grant the request for continuance. What I will say is that as long as the, facility is not operating, at the present time, which I believe that it is not, it is reasonable to allow the operator to complete as much of the corrective action as is possible before proceeding, so that we can at least, try to narrow what the issues are for the board going forward. And so, I wouldn't necessarily say that this request is to circumvent any requirements, but it does appear that the owners are trying to do work, and that will eventually come before the board as to whether or not that work is sufficient to allow the proceeding to move forward.
We'll take a couple comments on the question of continuance, then we'll ask the health department staff their comments, and then I will ask the board their thoughts on the continuance.
Yeah, Janie Howarth, speaking as a private citizen, but also known to be affiliated with the Summer House. I've been there for over 22 years as one of their entertainers, and also as a person who's observed very, very closely over the years the management and the operation of the Summer House. Council pretty much just covered everything that I was going to say, but I would just amplify it by putting forward that I myself have watched the proceedings with regard to their effort and their diligence to repair the plumbing situation, and that's in place. I've seen it personally, and I've not seen any hesitation on the part of the Summer House to not diligently attempt to repair everything that has been brought to their attention. And just again, speaking as a private citizen, and my neck would be on the line personally as a citizen of Nantucket if I were to try to contend otherwise. I've seen it, and they're in process, and I agree with council that the opportunity to complete that work before anything further is judged upon them makes sense to me. So thank you.
Thank you. Staff, your comments on a continuance?
The letter of non-renewal was issued in order to,
Is your microphone on?
yes, I'm just speaking lowly. The letter of non-renewal was issued in order for us to be able to verify that the rest of the facility as a whole is capable to handle this restaurant, and that the restaurant can function in a safe way. We did not shut them down, as many people are saying. What we said is that we're simply not going to renew the permit. We need them to apply as a new facility in order for us to go through the plan review. So today's hearing is simply whether or not you as the board agree with that or not. I don't see why we couldn't continue today, or if we go 2 weeks from now, our recommendation will still be the same. I would recommend that we continue today in order to not postpone this and continue this further than it has to.
So you're recommending continuance, although,
No, that we perform the hearing today.
I'm sorry,
That we perform the hearing today is my recommendation.
because whatever to me, I'm not sure it matters,
Yeah, our recommendation will
because
still be
it's
the
still not
same.
going to open until you say it's okay.
Correct. This hearing today is about an appeal to our
Yeah,
decision.
so it's all right. All right, thank you. Comments from the board on continuance?
I sort of feel like some of this stuff has been going on for 3 years, but we should just have the hearing, but that's everybody.
All right, because
That's the stuff that I have in front of me. All the things that are wrong. Everything in here is dated September of 2022. So it's been 7 months or 8 months that nothing, and I mean nothing, according to the thing that I have in front of me, has been done. So how do they expect to get this done by the 20th or even part of it by the 20th of this month?
And-
Somebody answer that?
Yes, sir. As soon as I'm allowed, I will address points, but I thought I'd let everybody who wants to say something.
Yeah.
Well, any other comments from the board?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, we're talking about just the continuance here.
right.
That just means we all go home today and come back
On the 20th.
on the 20th.
The restaurant stays closed.
The restaurant stays closed in the meantime.
You know, it's a long list of things and, you know, even just in there's a historical perspective, there's a lot of things wrong. And the short list, you know, the short time period still has a lot of things wrong. We've used terms like stuff is being worked on. Can you give a specific list of what is being done and what the current status is? I mean,
Yes, sir.
it's nice to say it's being worked on, but there's a lot to do.
Yeah.
So what are
Yes,
the
sir.
specifics?
Yes, sir. May I now?
Go
Speak?
ahead.
Thank you.
please.
Okay. With respect to this gentleman's comment here, I'm sorry, I don't have your name, but man in the yellow shirt here. Your comment was that there are open issues since September of 2022. That is incorrect. There are no open issues from September of 2022 or any time during 2022. Not at all. The only open issue to date is an issue that requires a COI from both the fire department and the building department before the health department will come back and do an inspection. That issue has been cured as well. So all of those issues in September 2022 have been cured. Any issue other than the hooking up of the gas to get the hot water going, which has been prevented by circumstances such as removing the propane gas tanks from the property, which we were ordered to do. That meant that over the holiday, we needed to get a new gas vendor and allow those gas tanks to be hooked up. Once the gas tanks are hooked up today, they're being hooked up now, then the plumbing inspector will come back out and make sure that the gas is turned on, and then the water will flow. And that is the problem with the outstanding issue. The only outstanding issue is a building issue, which is cured. It's all but cured. It just needs to get the go-ahead from the fire and building department, at which time the health department will come back and make sure that they're satisfied with, as this gentleman here, is that Mr. Santa Maria? Yes. As he pointed out, once the health department comes back, then they will make their final inspection about any additional issues that they see. But hopefully all those issues will have been corrected if, you know, they're unknown at this time. All the known issues are corrected at this time. And to answer, there was another question here.
That's specific.
What's the short list of things to be done? I answered that. And everything has been cured. I answered that. There's nothing outstanding. Excuse me for 1 second. Yes? Right. The plumbing and electrical inspections had passed prior to this problem that was discovered in June. This was a last minute problem that was uncovered by an inspection in June 14th, June 21st, something like that. So that's the plumbing issue where there was incorrect plumbing and it needed to be replaced. It was replaced. There were permits pulled. The rough inspection was approved by the plumbing department. Now the gas needs to be hooked up, and I don't want to repeat myself, but that's the standard there. As far as a continuance,
Excuse me.
and to the gentleman's point, Mr. Laughlin, I believe, who was the neighbor. the neighbor who was against continuing it because he was under the presumption that, I forget how he put it.
Yeah, well,
What he was saying, and I think that I think that this is a misunderstanding, probably because of a number of the newspaper reports. But the property itself had passed all these other inspections and had their, for example, the dormitory permit was revoked because of which it had already passed. So a lot of these inspections had already passed, but there was a last minute discovery in mid-June of the plumbing problem. And that is really what triggered the status that we're in today.
okay, so let me, someone on the board explain this to me. The way I look at it, tell me if I'm wrong, is whether we're actually talking about a continuance of a hearing. Whether the hearing is now or a week from now doesn't necessarily matter, because that's not the issue here. The issue is you're appealing a decision of the health department. So that's what we should really be discussing, because you're not going to open until, however this hearing comes out. We could support the position of the health department, and you're going to be closed. Or you're going to be open. You're still going to have an inspection to open again. So I haven't been convinced we need a continuance.
But the issue before the issue that the health department is concerned with needs to be inspected by other departments. So it's actually not economical for anybody, not the town, not the applicant, to go through a hearing where we're in a kind of a piecemeal position at this time. It would make more sense if we couldn't pass those inspections, or if we did pass those inspections, now we're in a position for all of the facts to be known for a proper hearing. These are building related matters. These aren't health code. They're not in the health code. These are tangential to the health code. They're building code violations, and they're being addressed by the building department. The grounds for, well, as I said, we did discuss this with council, and we were under the impression that this would be agreeable. So I'm sorry to mention that, really. It's your decision, of course.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And so, but we're asking for something that we believe benefits both sets of parties. And we're asking for, and we believe we've shown good grounds to ask for the continuance.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, voice behind me. Yes.
This is Town Council Greg Corbo. I just want to make clear for the record that neither myself nor Attorney Riley indicated that this request for continuance was going to be granted. It was made very clear that only the board could grant a continuance, and that would be discussed here today. So I don't want there to be any impression that we in any way are interfering with the board's ability to decide the matter. So, you know, with that being said, I guess I'd like to hear, or through you, Mr. Chair, you may want to hear from the health director as to, you know, what would be required in order for this establishment to reopen. The director previously mentioned that that the application needs to be treated like an application for a new restaurant. So I think it might benefit the board to understand what exactly would be involved going forward from this point.
Well, if that would help us on the continuance, I think we're spending too much time on the question of the continuance. I mean, we have an option to have a hearing, whether it's now or later. I still haven't been convinced it needs to be delayed. And my fellow board members' comments?
My question to you, Roberta, is do they have the information they need to do what you say they have to do for this place to open?
The truth is, we received this appeal within an hour of the applicant receiving the order letter. The applicant has never approached us to have a discussion about what is needed. The truth of the matter is, in order to do this, what we're requesting is a plan review. A plan review document. It's the approximately 20-page document where it goes through item by item with the specifications of what is going to be in the kitchen in order for us to be able to assess that everything in that kitchen is up to modern day standards. What we keep hearing in the emails and the support letters and things like that is that the summer house is keeping the 70s charm. The food code has changed more than 20 times since the 1970s. And some of this equipment may have still been there since the 1970s. We want to make sure that the new equipment is up to today's National Sanitation Foundation standards. And in order to do that, we need to see a plan review. That's all we're requesting.
Yeah.
We're just, the non-renewal, what that means is that we're just not going to automatically renew your permit based on previous standards.
Well, let's move on because it's a very simple question. They have a non-renewal letter. They've appealed it. The question here is, do we support that non-renewal letter or we don't? Whether we make that decision today, tomorrow, or a month from now, to me is irrelevant.
May I be recognized again, please?
One more comment, and then we'll ask the board to vote on the continuance.
Thank you. I would just point out one thing, which is that in order for the establishment to even have a chance of passing any of these inspections or being judged upon the criteria that Mr. Santamaria has brought forward, there needs to be hot water. There needs to be hot water in the restaurant in order for it to be cleaned, in order for it to be judged. There isn't any. That will take another week and a half to get put in place. This is not something that's been dragging on for 9 months. This is something that competent, licensed plumbers have been working on since it was brought to the attention of the summer house in mid-June. All they're asking for is an additional week and a half to get the place into the condition such that it could possibly be judged on the basis of its sanitation and its cleanliness, and you can't do that without hot water. So that's pending. It's almost there. We, again, as the council had brought to the fore, the fire department is out there today helping have the tanks replaced so that the place can be cleaned, so it can be judged.
That's fine. It'll be clean.
But that's why the continuance.
But at some point, they'll have everything ready for another inspection.
Right.
The
And that would
question for us is very simple.
Mhm.
Do we support the health department's issuing of that letter?
That's not what's on the agenda right at this moment. What's on the agenda right now is the continuance. with
Yes.
all due respect.
And that's why we're discussing that. And that's why I haven't been convinced we need a continuance, but I want to hear what the rest of my board says. Please.
May I just?
One more question, then we're going to go to one more comment, then we're going to go to the board.
I have to act like a
Because the
lawyer now.
question, we're getting beyond what the question of this hearing is.
Yes. This hearing was, well, there's a couple of things. One is that the purpose of the safety code, the health code, is not to be punitive. It's to be prospective. There's a case on that. It's Board of Health of Northbridge versus Couture, 95 Mass App Court, 296, 2019, citing an earlier case from 1966. So piling up past violations in order to non-renew now, all of which have been cured, in order to prevent us from even being considered for a continuance at this time, I would suggest you as punitive and beyond this board's authority. In addition, the notice of when this hearing was and where it was going to be was not provided to my client till yesterday morning. That's insufficient notice. Wasn't posted till 4 o'clock or so, I understand, to the public on Monday afternoon. But my client did not receive it. So she should have been informed of the date and time of this hearing. I went down to the Board of Health and asked for proof that she was served with this notice and that she didn't get one. Once I went down there, that's when they went and noticed her. So I would suggest that this is not properly noticed hearing. In addition, Now, Ms. De Benedictis can tell you that herself when she was noticed. And I do think that's germane. If we're not going to continue this hearing, I would suggest that it can't be held at all and it needs to be renoticed. And I would suggest that it be renoticed for July 20th. And I didn't mean to suggest, and I apologize to my brother, Attorney Corbo and Attorney Riley. I did not mean to suggest that somehow you all had already agreed. That's not what I meant. What I meant to say was that it was agreeable to counsel to suggest to you all that that would not be an unreasonable request, which is what he did do. And so I respectfully, I apologize for any misinterpretation there. And I do think that Ms. De Benedictis should be able to be heard from. So I ask that she be heard from now.
Well, we're talking a whole different issue. All right. I still am struggling as to why we need to continue it, but if we haven't given proper notice, that's another issue. So I would ask, where's my attorney?
Attorney Corbo?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is the first that I'm hearing that there was not proper notice. So I might defer to the health director if he can shed some light on that issue.
Over the course of the previous 10 days, as requested in both the food code as well and in discussion with Ms. De Benedictis herself, both in person and in writing, she was properly noticed that today's meeting was happening. The fact that she is here with a coalition of people, including her attorney, tells me that she was noticed. If she was not properly noticed, she wouldn't be here. And then we posted this meeting in accordance to the open meeting law, which also counts as notice. We're also holding this hearing in accordance to 105 CMR 590, the food code, which says that a public hearing for an appeal has to be held within 10 days of the receipt of the appeal, which was July 27th.
No, it says it must be noticed within 10 days of the appeal and it must be had within 30 days of the appeal. And the fact that a person, and my brother can attest to this, the fact that a person ends up finding out about a hearing in which they're a defendant doesn't mean that they got proper notice. It just means that they found out about it eventually, which she did do. And we asked several times when this was going to be heard and whether it was going to be heard. And if we need to have a continuance to provide you that documentation, I'd not a continuance, but a brief recess so that we can provide you the documentation showing that nobody could tell us. They kept saying, well, it'll probably be this day, but we don't know the time and we don't know the location. And then we got notice saying it was going to be at 4 o'clock today. Then we got not notice, but communication saying it was going to be at 4 o'clock. Then they changed the time to a time that was within. She'll tell you exactly when she got notice, but it's insufficient notice. You can't say that a public notice is sufficient when you've got a license on the line like this. It's just not. It's not appropriate, not at all. This is a special hearing. It was not on the regular schedule. So it needed to be noticed and it needed to be with the person who was the target of the hearing. She needed to be noticed appropriately.
Ms. De Benedictis walked into our office on July 20.
I'm sorry.
Ms. De Benedictis walked into our office on June 26th June 27th to personally deliver the letter. We noticed her. We discussed with her in person that the meeting will be held most likely on this day. As soon as we found out, when I emailed the board asking that today was set, we also spoke with her in person. There will be no documentation because this was an in-person and on the phone. If you want to push it back to July 20th, the issue is still the same. I think that these 2 weeks will better be spent filling out a plan review rather than discussing the semantics of whether we should hold the appeal or not.
So
May I-
can I
my
make a
client-
public comment?
Excuse me, my client is.
Let's do it here and then there, and then we'll discuss on the board.
I was refused by the Board of Health. I went there after daily mass, which I attend, and I tried to speak with Inspector Hedden, and I was told that he would not speak to me. So I have never spoken to anyone since the issuance of this letter. Not one person. I have tried through intermediaries to make a meeting. Our restaurant consultant spoke at length with Inspector Hedden. He's the guy that cured all the problems, and Inspector Hedden had agreed that they were all cured. Many of the things that were cited from 2022 were underneath put in. They're all been corrected. Everything was corrected through this consultant. He spoke with Inspector Hedden repeatedly, asking for a hearing with Roberto Santa Maria and Inspector Hedden, and we were refused. I would not been entitled to speak to anybody until I'm speaking to you today. And I repeatedly asked so that I could have other licensing counsel that I've hired in Boston, because the law is very, very clear. And with the two cases cited by my co-counsel here, or I should say my attorney, that there are two leading Massachusetts cases that say a health department cannot act punitively. And that as soon as you've corrected a violation, your permit must issue. And so I believe if we bring this to the Superior Court, we will be victorious. But I'm looking here to try to settle up with the town. I've been here for 43 years, and the fact that they wouldn't even talk to me after issuing letters revoking my food permit, I don't think is equitable or just in any capacity. But I can tell you that the only notice I received from Heather Nardone, who notices these hearings, was yesterday after 1 o'clock, telling me that the hearing would be here today at noon. Any other indication of when the hearing would be held and at what time was coming from the newspapers and from the community. So I would have had a lot more people here today. In fact, people have been emailing me, hundreds of people. When is the hearing? We'd like to come. We want to be heard. And I was unaware of it until yesterday when Heather Nardone told me it was going to be at noon today. So, I mean, there's been absolutely the idea that Mr. Santa Maria would say that I didn't talk to anybody. I tried to talk to people from the minute that Inspector Hedden showed up at our closed building, which I was ordered to vacate. This is what happened. We had gotten permission to open the dormitory. We got laudatory remarks about how beautiful it was and in total compliance. And we were getting ready to ask for a full inspection. And then when I did ask for the full inspection, the plumbing and electrical inspectors came out and they said that the new on-demand hot water heaters that I've paid a lot of money for, so there could be an individual brand new hot water heater in every cottage and on the premises in the restaurant, they said they were improperly installed and that they were going to have to remove the gas tanks. And they were very nice to me, cooperative. They said, we'll remove the gas tanks, just get them properly installed. And we'll let you reopen. All right, so that's what I went about doing, spending thousands of dollars, maybe over $100,000 to date to get them reconnected. And they've been working with me and my master plumbers and electricians. And all of a sudden, while the building was closed in a construction site, because there's been no restaurant there since 2022. We were under construction. We were told to vacate the building. Right. We did. So they came. Inspector Hedden stopped by. He told one of my employees that he was in the neighborhood. There is black letter law that a health inspection cannot take place and on an unopened, unlicensed building. And there's black letter law that says you have to have a certificate of inspection of that building issued by the building department before the inspector can come out.
We're getting away from the issue here.
Okay. Well, the issue is there was no inspection in 2023 because
the issue is, I'm still going back to, we started off talking about a continuance, not the basis of any complaint.
Mhm.
And there's been no discussion at this board about punitive actions. I'm sorry, we're talking about one simple thing, a letter that was issued to you, period. You objected to that, and all we have to do at this board is either accept it or deny it. That's the reason for this hearing. The rest of it all is.
Excuse me, Commissioner Mendengar, but that letter came up with a penalty that was punitive in nature because we've researched now every single violation in this town, and we're prepared to go forward and show them to you at a hearing. Where people had excrement on the floors of restaurants, people were sick, they were vomiting, health code violations, unbelievable things, and nobody was shut down and refused a renewal. They weren't even fined.
Okay, we're talking about the crux of the matter. I still want to get back to the continuance. and the issue of whether or not adequate notice was given. Those are the issues on the floor right now.
I
period.
received no notice until yesterday from Heather Nardone at 1 PM, at 1:03,
Less than 24 hours.
less than 24 hours. I can prove it. I can read it to you.
Roberto?
We have staff present who can discuss when the notice was given, including Ms. Nardoni herself.
It's right here. I have it in black and white.
Was there notice given before that?
There was notice given prior. I did that as a courtesy email after the attorney showed up.
Just introduce yourself, please.
Oh, sorry. I'm Heather Nardoni. I'm the public health coordinator for the office. So I emailed Danielle after the attorney had came in as a courtesy because she said, oh, I'm not sure what time it is or where it is. And when I sent it, she responded and said, I don't remember the exact words, but can it be in person and or Zoom? And I said, correct. And then they're here. So, I mean, it was completely a courtesy and I only sent it as a make sure, you know, like exactly all the details of it.
It's not.
And they were notified prior. That
is not.
is completely false information.
No, when were we notified prior?
I have every email from Heather Nardone here, and the first one that I received was yesterday at 1:03.
Mr.
Which we
McNabb,
agree.
we have gone beyond the scope, whether or not we should hear the continuance or not.
Due process
I-
is not beyond the scope.
We should.
Oh, wait a second. Excuse me. One person at a time,
Yes, sir.
please. Roberto.
Fact of the matter is, Ms. De Benedictis requested this hearing, and now they're asking to push it back.
We did not request this hearing for this specific day. That is false. That's false. It's false.
Yes,
So,
please identify yourself.
okay, I'm Gerard Ruddick. I'm a longtime resident of Sconset, year-round resident, and as an objective observer, I think y'all just need to take a breath. I mean, it feels kind of like gotcha here. And so it seems like from everything I've learned and heard, and I know what's going on in Sconset, that when issues have been brought to their attention, they're addressing them. And it seems like the gentleman over there is racing to get something done in some agenda. I don't know, but I just.
How dare you?
I'm
I
sure
think
that's,
just-
I don't think
just think
that's,
taking a
excuse me,
pause-
sir. I don't think that
taking
was a,
pause.
that was
is
not
not
a,
a bad idea.
excuse me, that was not appropriate statement.
Okay,
I
but
think Mr. Santa Maria needs an apology.
I apologize to you. I'm telling you what I feel and what I'm seeing as an objective observer. And it seems like you guys are racing to get something done.
I'm not
And
racing,
I
gang.
think
and
that
I'm
the good
just,
of the village.
you
and
know,
the
it's
good
a
of the-
beautiful
good-
day. This is the
I
last
know.
place I'd, you know,
I know, and when I found out last minute that this thing was here at 12, I came, but it was last minute that I found out too. So you certainly didn't have it
well,
widely advertised,
I,
right? So,
I think it was advertised long in the proper time.
so I just think taking a breath wouldn't be a bad idea.
Okay, we may do that. Yes, sir.
Yes, Chair. John Hedden with the Health Department. And we can take a breath and we can get back to the matter at hand here. So the crux of the issue is demonstration, which is directly right in the food code. And to me, it's been demonstrated that this operator is not responsible enough to run food establishments. You've seen the violations, right, that are in front of you. Raw sewage behind the bistro building, which they never reported to us, and they were carting into the woods. Rolled cigarettes going on in the kitchen. And yes, that was last year. So we can focus on 2023. They've expanded their bar with no plan review from us. They did all that plumbing and electrical work,
Yeah, but
which
wait a
was
second.
talked about.
I want to get back to, we're getting to the crux of the matter. The issue on the table is notification whether we have a continuance.
All right,
The
if you want to
detail-
do that, you can. I'm just saying
details of the
demonstration.
I want to, once we get those resolved, then we can deal with the details of the complaint.
Okay.
So comments from the board. I need some advice here and I have some ideas, but please. Do we feel adequate notice has been given? And two, do we issue a continuance or do we go on with the hearing as stated?
Well, what will the continuance actually solve if Roberta says that that's not the problem. If they get everything fixed and everybody signs off, when they come back, Roberta, is there a chance that they get to open without things that you have to have done?
Before we're even allowed to issue a food permit, we need to have the COI from both building and fire, signed off by both building and fire, which we have not received yet. So until that time, we can't even begin our part. So it would be at least the 2 weeks before we even get that far. What we're asking for is to be able to do it concurrently as part of a plan review so that we're not doing it piecemeal. If the board decides to continue the hearing, it doesn't change that timeline. There is no difference.
So we'll be sitting in the same position we are right now if we give them 2 week continuance.
Correct.
Did the,
Sir, over here. Go ahead.
yes, did the Summer House people request a hearing?
We requested a hearing. Yes, we did.
Yeah.
And why did you do that?
Because the grounds for the non-renewal are faulty. And we believe that we have a right to overturn it. We believe that once this body gets the information, you will overturn it. You will see why we are correct. But in addition, you will be in a different position if you put this off for 2 weeks in one major respect. The touchstone of due process of law is notice, proper notice, and an opportunity to be heard. And if this proceeding continues today, the appeal goes forward today, I'll move to recess and go straight to Superior Court to shut it down because we did not get proper notice.
So
And
how
the
did you
reason-
request the appeal?
Pardon me?
If you didn't receive notice, how did you request an appeal? to the
No, oh,
hearing?
no. We received notice from the town that they were not renewing the license. That was on July 26th. Excuse me, June 26th. We received that notice. In response to that, we appealed. And that's why we were issued a hearing, but we did not receive notice of the hearing until yesterday at 1 o'clock. We had to know when it was, we had to know where it was, we had to know what time it was. And we did not, and we had attempted to contact counsel, who we thought was town council, but he's in Istanbul, Turkey. So it wasn't until yesterday afternoon that I was able to communicate with anybody from KP Law. And that was not Attorney Corbo, as he's already stated. It was, or I stated, it was Attorney Riley. So I hope that clarifies that. So you will be in a different position if you just table it for now and mark it up for the 20th. And you don't have to say you gave us a continuance. You can say that you're just giving us proper notice, because at this point, when it's noticed, it will certainly be enough time. And so I would suggest that please consider just putting it off for today.
My shadow in the back, Mr. Kovo, could you help me here? I think what we should do in the future is all the boards and commissions on the island, the requirement to be on one, you must be an attorney. Because it seems we often always end up in these discussions.
No one likes us on boards. That was a joke.
Yes.
Sorry.
Maybe we need one. Mr. Kovo, comment on
Sure.
the legal aspects of whether we gave them proper notice or not. We have differings of opinions here.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, does seem to be a dispute as to whether or not proper notice was received. I believe that the health director indicated that there was an email message that provided specific notice, but I haven't seen that yet. But in my opinion, whether or not there was a written notice provided, the applicant is here, the applicant is represented by counsel. The applicant has an opportunity to, present evidence or identify what additional evidence they would need in order to be prepared, which I haven't really heard. But, I think that what we need to focus on is, what is the expected outcome of this proceeding. And it seems to me that the two potential outcomes here are either that the applicant has to go through a full plan review in order to reopen, or that the applicant has satisfied that they have sufficient grounds for renewal based on what they've done. And I mean, it would seem to me that if the restaurant is closed and they want to take the risk to go forward till the 20th and then have the board say on the 20th that a plan review is required, it seems to me like it would be in their best interest to have that question decided sooner rather than later. But if they prefer later, I don't see how there's a harm to the town as long as the restaurant is remaining closed.
Excuse me, could you, that last couple of minutes got a little garbled.
Oh, I'm sorry. So it appears to me that the sole issue is whether or not a plan review is required. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
And so whether we have the hearing today or whether we have it on the 20th, the risk of that decision is on the applicant as long as the restaurant remains closed. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so if the applicant is willing to take the risk that on the 20th, you're going to tell them they can't open without a plan review, and they haven't done the plan review yet, it just means that they have to stay closed longer.
Yes.
Thank you. Comments from the board, and we'll move on. We're going to vote on continuance very shortly. What a quiet.
Go ahead, Jim. Do you have any?
My problem, with this whole thing, if we grant them the continuous, and we know right now, the answer is gonna be the same, what is anybody gonna gain?
That's
If
the
they
point of the
do
hearing.
everything, if they fix everything and they think they've got everything in order and they come back and Roberto still won't give them permit and he tells them they have to be closed, what has that gained?
Yeah, see,
I hope that that's
Mr.
not
Chair,
the position of the.
Mr.
of the
Chair, through you,
department.
can I respond to that question?
Attorney Corso, you must address this because they're now deciding the matter before the hearing. I mean, please.
So Mr. Chair, through you, and again, you know, I don't want to step on the toes of the board or the health director here. And, you know, if you want to go forward, you know, it's my opinion that you have the authority to go forward. But, you know, what you have to be gained is the potential, and it may be unlikely, but there's a potential that this could be resolved without having a hearing or without having litigation. And from what I'm hearing, it's likely that if you go forward today, it's going to end up in litigation, and the dispute is going to be prolonged. Whereas if you give them their week and a half, they can no longer raise an issue of notice. They can no longer raise an issue that they didn't have an opportunity to correct all of the violations. And again, the risk that additional time takes is on them. But what it buys the board is the opportunity for them to do all their work, for the town to do its re-inspections, and for the town to then say, we've done our re-inspections and we're satisfied. Even if that is not likely to occur, it is my opinion that it does not harm the board to give them that opportunity as long as the restaurant is closed in the meantime.
well, it's,
The attorney, I thought what he said is, it behooves the summer house to assume that on the 20th, there will be an order for a full plan, and they may as well do it now, get it done, with the hope that on the 20th of July, everything will be copacetic and they can open. Am I somehow
If that were the,
missing something?
if I may, if that were the case, then that would mean that the board was deciding all the substantive matters before the hearing even occurred. That is the outcome that could happen. I suppose if it were legal. I haven't investigated that, but let's say that it is, and let's say that you're satisfied, then at that time, after you've heard all the evidence, it would be appropriate, if it's legal, to make that decision. But if you're deciding now on a continuance based on the fact that what you're going to decide 2 weeks from now is just going to be the same anyway, you've basically established that you're acting arbitrarily and capriciously and not listening to any of the evidence. Respectfully, your lawyer can advise you of this, but that is essentially what you've done. And I know that that's not what you want to do,
Well, I'm not sure we've done that at all.
but that's what that would entail.
I'm,
Deciding that it's going to turn out later, the same way that it's going to turn out now, is saying that we don't need to hold a hearing, and that is not
well,
appropriate.
that's not what I heard
I
anybody
think
say.
we're allowed to discuss the options of what could happen.
Mr.
Of
Chair.
course. Yes, yes,
And I
absolutely.
think that taking the words of options and saying that we've decided something is really setting up a combative situation. So I would request that we are allowed to discuss options.
Absolutely.
And part of those options are trying to protect you folks too.
Yes,
What
sir.
is the path to get open and run a business? Sitting there telling us you're going to drag it to Superior Court is just going to drag out the opening of the restaurant.
Well,
So
if we lose,
we're
yes.
discussing options, and that's what we've asked the attorney to do.
Mhm.
That and your input too, and everybody else. We want options so we can figure out what is the, I'm going to say sanest way to go forward. Now, the other question I have is, regardless of what happens, however,
Mhm.
does a plan review have to be submitted? Under the current situation?
Under the current situation, if the board does not overturn the staff's decision, yes, we need a plan review. The easiest way to do this would be to submit a plan review.
If they-
Legal jujitsu, please let me finish.
I'm sorry, I was
Legal
talking to myself.
legal
Sorry.
jujitsu aside, if we continue this to July 20th, fact is, Summer House stays closed. It gives everyone time to get the work done. All this manufactured debate of notice goes away. And if the board chooses to uphold the staff's decision, a plan review is still needed anyway. At this point, in order to finish wasting everyone's time, let's go ahead, move the appeal to July 20th. Because this board, the summer house will remain closed, but on one condition. We need one representative to work with the staff. Because over the course of the last 7 days, I have received messages regarding permitting from Linda Williams, John Shea, Jamie Howarth. Gerard even emailed me this morning. Enough. We need
We're not
one
responsible
person.
for that.
We need one, these are form letters that we've been receiving, and one of them actually included the email from Ms. De Benedictis to them asking for help, where
Okay.
they just simply forwarded to
They're
us.
members of the public and they have the right to contact
So-
the town official.
So may we have
All right,
one
enough,
point of
Contact.
contact?
enough.
I'm the contact.
Yeah.
Okay,
One
we're
point of
done. We're
contact.
done. It's time to move on. We've discussed this probably
Right.
too much.
So,
Let Meredith comment and then we'll move on.
so if we're gonna continue it, then it's on the record for everybody that it is July 20th at 4:00.
Three,
So 3:00?
3:00.
Okay,
3
July
o'clock.
20th at 3:00. So it's on the record. So everybody that's here, everyone that can watch it on TV, it's proper notice, I would assume, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Let me
Could I
Make
suggest
sure.
that it start, I would just suggest that it may be long, so you might want to start at noon, but it's really your call. I believe it'll be a long.
It'll be,
So if we were to change the time, what would you consider legal notice?
Oh, today. Yes, certainly.
Then we need to set a time right
Yeah,
now.
that would be great. What's the board's?
I think 3:00 is fine,
Oh, you do? Okay.
unless I have other board objections. Let me just look, I maybe,
We also have the public hearing for the drinking water well regulation that day.
so we'll have two long items.
Yes. Yeah, it is currently scheduled July 20th, 2023 at 3 p.m. in this room.
Mhm.
Is currently scheduled.
Everyone comfortable with that?
Is the applicant comfortable with that?
What did you say, sir?
Thursday, July 20th at 3 p.m. in this room, the community room at 4 Fairgrounds Road, Nantucket, Massachusetts, 02554.
And when is the other hearing, sir?
This is the only hearing.
No, the other hearing for the other item that you have on your agenda that day,
Is the same day,
same
at
time?
the same time. Same Board of Health meeting.
Don't believe that will be a good idea for you all. It's going to be a long hearing.
Is council suggesting that they're planning on holding a work slowdown at that meeting?
I am suggesting that I'm going to put on a case that's going to go through all of your records,
Mr. Corbo,
other restaurants' records.
Mr. Corbo.
I'm still speaking.
Well,
Other
whoa. Okay. I understand what you're saying. You're saying you're going to make it a long period of time.
I'm going to fully vet this issue. Should there be a hearing that day? Yes. I'm hoping to resolve it, but if we can't resolve it, there'll be a hearing at 3.
Well, you have the right to do what you want. And we have the privilege of staying in these seats until we're finished. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So what I would suggest, since you have 2 public hearings on, that you set the public hearing on the well regulation for 3 o'clock, set the public hearing on this matter for 3:15. And if you happen to get to this matter later than 3:15, so be it. But that will then at least give you time certains for both of those hearings, knowing that you can't start earlier than those times, but you can start later.
And we can always continue the hearing.
Yeah, we can. Yes, we're a tough group.
Well,
We can always recess for dinner and come back, whatever. So enough discussion, and I'm not very happy with all that's happened today. I think I'm not sure why we need to do a continuance, but it seems like we're being forced into it. It doesn't make me happy, but so be it. So we need to have a motion. Yes, one more thing, Roberto, then we're finished.
And we also get who that one designated point of contact will be.
Yes, I was about to say, yes.
Thank you.
I did say that it was me and I'm dealing with the attorneys. So that's me, Mary Ellen Manning.
I'm sorry.
I'm Mary Ellen Manning. I am the designated point of contact with the attorneys, and they can contact their clients and I'll contact my client. We'll just leave it with the attorneys. Is that agreeable to Mr. Corso?
Well, he doesn't, we don't need an attorney. All Roberto and his staff wants is someone to communicate on the issues that are being done, period.
Correct.
And that's all he needs. So all he wants is one person, period. So after that, I think we've heard enough discussion for the day. I think everyone has expressed their opinions. So what I need from the board is a motion regards continuance of the appeal.
So motion to continue the hearing till July 20th, is that correct?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
July 20th at 3 p.m.
At 3 p.m.
At this location. And
Second. Any further discussion? 3:15. 3 o'clock, the meeting's going to start at 3 o'clock. It might be 3:17 or it might be 3:02. The meeting's starting at 3 o'clock and the agenda will be posted appropriately. And particularly which time yours is on the agenda, we don't know yet until I discuss it with Roberto. So the motion is that we continue this to July 20th. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair opposes. Votes 4-1. And it will be 2. I'm sorry. Ann Smith is also voted in opposition, so it is a 3-2 vote and it will be continued to July 20th. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all the time you've given us. Thank you very much.
We still need to close the meeting.
All right, so we need a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to close the meeting.
Motion to close the meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is closed.